Okay, so in a previous video, I talked about how I built these custom shapes. These custom shapes, and this basically template that we would use has the custom shape library pinned over here. I added that in the shape library modal. The custom shape, I used a random shape. You absolutely could use something more like an actual firewall or server shape from one of our many shape libraries and still customize it. And then the important thing here, though, is that I added custom data fields. I left them blank in the actual shape library, but basically I added a type field and a VPC field that I could easily fill in. So I could say that this is a server and the VPC it should be in is, let's say, production. And I added a conditional formatting rule that I showed, basically that lets me know, hey, this is in the wrong spot, put it in production. As soon as I move it, the icon goes away. So we built a smart template, a diagram that can help coach you on where things need to be. I wanted to show us one other thing here, and that's how we could coach where things should be allowed to be connected. So I'm going to show just a quick example of how you would build something that maybe says, hey, firewalls in this case cannot be connected. Maybe it needs to go through a router. Maybe a firewall can only ever be connected to a router. So even if we had a different type, that would not be allowed. So here is a good example of that. Basically, this rule is going to make the line look pretty ugly so that you're highly aware that you should not draw that line. So I have the rule here, but I'm actually going to kind of build it all again. So first off, I selected my rule and I created a new one and I could name it whatever I want. So we'll call it connection disallowed, for example. And I'm going to set my first if to be formula. And I'm going to say equal contains. And what contains is going to do is it's going to let me check in a string or in a list. And in this case, the list I'm looking for is connected. Connected is a formula that Lucid just pulls that will give you, what are these shapes connected to? In the case of shapes, which could be connected to many things, it's going to be a big list of references to all shapes that have lines drawn. In the case of a line, which can only have two endpoints, you're really only ever going to have two things, endpoint 1, endpoint 2. So I'm actually just going to grab that list of connected. And I might do this formula differently if I was trying to format the shape rather than the lines, but because I know there's just going to be two, I'm going to say if contains connected, and specifically connected.type, because rather than referencing just the actual shape, I want to pull the property off the shape. So everything connected has a type. And specifically what this formula is doing is it's saying, okay, pull list of everything connected, but from that, pull the type property. So basically, if I were to apply this to the firewall, it's going to have a list that contains server. And with this line, it's going to be the type server and the type firewall because that's what's listed there. And I'm going to check inside that what I'm checking for if contains includes firewall. And I'm going to then add an and condition. I could have put this in my formula, but it's also nice to just kind of separate it here. So I'm saying if it contains server as well, then this is when we care. So there's a firewall in this list and there's a server in this list. That is not okay. So what we're then going to do is we are going to, instead of an icon, we're going to do shape style. And we're actually not going to do fill. We're only going to care about line because we're trying to format the line specifically. So then I would make it something bright red, maybe dashed or dotted here, maybe a little bit thicker. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now, notice one thing that I did here. It's not applied to everything. It's only applied to some shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and say apply to all. And I'm also going to get rid of my old rule. And would you look at that? That formatting rule is now applying. So if I ever draw a line from a firewall to a server, it's going to automatically highlight. Whereas if I draw a firewall to router to server, we are A-okay. So that's how we can build some really interesting rules that can basically help coach us on diagramming, including some line connections. We could have put much more complex logic here. I could have specifically cared if the line is drawn from a firewall to a server versus in the other direction. So I might use upstream or downstream for that. I could look at other options, including maybe I only care, maybe a firewall can only ever be drawn to a router. So we might write an entirely different rule and they might make this one unnecessary because I might just say, if connected for a firewall contains anything but router, turn that line red. So we could add some very interesting logic here in terms of helping coach you in making these diagrams and templates smarter to build.